Hey guys, it's Mark, aka The Drunk Bunny, back with you again today for another new video. Today's going to be a pretty special video. As you can see, I have a different background right now, because I'm actually filming at home for a change. But, yeah. Today's going to be the first video in... It's my dog over there. Today's going to be the first video in a two-part series of my complete Blu-ray collection. So this is every Blu-ray I own. I actually forgot one. Oh wait, no, it doesn't go in this part. Never mind, forget that. I'm actually going to start in the back, because what I do, and you won't be able to see it here, but I have a stack of Blu-rays right here. I've got too many Blu-rays to fit on this shelf, so I stack them on top of each other. I don't know how well you could see that or even visualize that, but that's what I do. I stack them on top of each other, so in order to get them out without like completely ruining my entire alphabetical order and genre order was to start from the back. So we're going to start with dramas, I believe. Yes, okay. Now I'm not gonna start with like A, because I just pulled out stacks. So the stacks are going to go in alphabetical order by genre, but it's not necessarily going to be A through Z, if that makes any sense, just because it's easier that way. And I'm just going to basically show you guys what I own, maybe talk a little bit about the movie, if it's an interesting film. If not, we're just going to kind of blow through this, and then I'll get to the second part later. Unless I just really go through this quick, and then I'll do both parts in one video. So, anyway, let's get started. So, first stack here, start with the Da Vinci Code. Yeah, pretty interesting film. I like this. It's kind of a guilty pleasure for me. It's not the greatest movie of all time, but I think it's pretty good. I enjoy it. Scoot some stuff over here. Then I have Angels and Demons, the sequel. And finally, Inferno. I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see like the covers and everything. I didn't think about that. The lighting is kind of iffy, because it's like hazy and stuff. But anyway. Alright, next up, I've got the Dunkirk Steelbook. Still haven't watched this yet, but I'm a huge fan of Christopher Nolan. Can't wait to watch that. Picked that up recently. Got Eye in the Sky, which is a pretty good film about drones and civilian casualties in war. It brings up like a lot of psychological problems and questions. This one's really funny. I've got 50 Shades of Grey. This is a terrible film. Absolutely terrible movie. But I own it. Dakota Johnson is gorgeous, but you know, that's pretty much the only reason to watch this if you're a guy. Great Gatsby. Still haven't seen that, the full movie actually. I've said that. I think I've owned this movie for like 2 years now. Still haven't watched the entire film. Alright. Got The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. I love this film. It's got Daniel Craig, Rooney Mara. I have not seen the original Swedish version. I've heard the Swedish version is actually a lot better. But this is like the perfect movie to watch on a cold night. It's just so eerie, and there's such a feel to this movie. It's also pretty shocking with some of the violence and the graphicness of this movie. And yeah, I really love the performances. David Fincher film. David Fincher is one of my favorite directors. Yeah, I love that movie. That's one of my favorites in the collection. Keeping with the theme of David Fincher, Gone Girl. I've seen half of this. I didn't really like it. I'm gonna give this another rewatch soon, and hopefully I'll kind of get into it, but I don't like Ben Affleck. I really don't. I don't like him as an actor. Doesn't seem like that great of a person either. Like, he's not that bad, but still. Anyway, Gone Girl. I need to give it another shot, because it's probably not that bad. Another film I actually really love is called Her. About this guy who falls in love with a computer, basically, who's voiced by Scarlett Johansson, which, I mean, who wouldn't fall in love with Scarlett Johansson's voice? But yeah, really interesting commentary on love, kind of in a digital age, and technology, and, you know, like, what it means to love somebody, and whether you can love an inanimate object. Really interesting. Also kind of funny film as well. Joaquin Phoenix, phenomenal in this movie. Next up, we have The Hurricane, which I have not seen. Yeah, nothing really to say about that one. Pretty good film from last year, I, Tonya. I just watched this like a month ago, I think. Margot Robbie, phenomenal. Allison Janney, phenomenal in this movie. Definitely deserved the Oscar noms that it got. Yeah, it was really funny. Really good as well. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot wrong with it. It would definitely be my least favorite out of all the like major Oscar movies, but it was still pretty damn good. John Wick Chapter 2. I don't have the first one. These two films seem like films I'm going to love, because I really love gritty action movies, a la Atomic Blonde, which is basically like a female version of John Wick from what I hear. The same people who made the first John Wick made Atomic Blonde, which is one of my favorite movies of the year last year. So yeah, I feel like I'm going to really love this series. Just haven't picked up the first one yet, so as soon as I pick up the first one, I'll hopefully get to watching the second one. Got Les Miserables, which I have not seen yet. Lincoln, which surprisingly for the history major, I have not seen the full movie. Lincoln. I'm a bad history major if I haven't seen Lincoln. Money Monster, really underrated thriller from a couple years ago, I think. It's got a great cast: George Clooney, Julia Roberts. Alright, next stack here. I think we're continuing with drama, yep. Nightcrawler, phenomenal movie. Yeah, I couldn't recommend this one enough. Jake Gyllenhaal with one of the best performances of his career right there. Red Sparrow, bit of a disappointing movie for me this year. I saw the trailer, I thought it was going to be amazing, but when I actually went to the theater and saw this, I got bored at times. It's very long, very drawn out, very serious. There were a couple scenes that I thought really saved the movie for me. A couple big scenes towards the end of the film, but without those, I really wouldn't like this. But yeah, Red Sparrow, it's worth a watch, I would say. Jennifer Lawrence is pretty good in the film. Another great movie here, Selma. Of course, about the march across the bridge in Selma. Civil rights movement, Martin Luther King Jr. I love this movie. Really good, really emotional. Like, I can't get through that movie without tearing up. We have Seven. Great, another great Fincher film. Yeah, Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman. Awesome movie right there. Alright, this next one's one of my favorite movies of all time. We have The Shawshank Redemption. This is the digibook version. This is one of the few films that I would say is perfect. This is a movie that everybody needs to watch at least once in their lifetime. It takes a lot out of you to watch. It's a long movie, it's an emotional movie, and I'd say it's a draining movie. I feel like I've worked pretty hard to watch this movie, but not in the sense that it's hard to like, because I love this. It's just, there's so much that happens in this movie, so much serious shit goes down, that it's hard to get through in a way, but it's one of the most well-done movies I've ever seen. Probably the best Stephen King adaptation, for my money. Then we have The Shape of Water. my favorite movie last year. So happy that this won Best Picture. Yeah, I saw this twice in theaters, loved it so much. One of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen, and that's saying something when it's about a fish that falls in love with a human. Kind of a crazy plot to this movie, but it is so, so good. Seriously, definitely watch it if you haven't. Spotlight, another one of my favorite films of the past few years. This was also nominated. I don't know if it won Best Picture, but it's about the pedophilia in the Catholic Church and the newspaper team that broke the story in 2002, I think it was. Michael Keaton's phenomenal. I love Michael Keaton, as well as Mark Ruffalo. Mark Ruffalo is one of my favorite actors. Star-studded cast here. Really well done. I can't say enough about Spotlight. And another one of the best movies of the year last year, 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Frances McDormand's performance, out of this world good in that one. Alright, let's see. I'm going to flip this over so I can get some more dramas here. Got a giant stack of Blu-rays on the floor. Okay. Alright, moving into my James Bond collection here. I finally own all of the Daniel Craig James Bond films. Hopefully I'll watch them all pretty soon. Casino Royale. Quantum of Solace. Skyfall, and of course Spectre. New James Bond movie should be coming out next year, I think it is. Probably the final Daniel Craig James Bond film. But yeah, I haven't seen any of them, but it's always been a franchise that has appealed to me. Figured I would like the Daniel Craig ones the best because they're more modern. I do tend to gravitate towards that. Just decided one day that I would start picking them up, and finally I've picked up all of them, so I need to watch them pretty soon. Hopefully I'll have them all watched before the next one hits theaters, and then I'll watch that one in the theaters. Next up here we have Blade Runner 2049. This is a movie that got a lot of praise and a lot of hate last year. It's really, really long from what I hear. Didn't get the chance to see this in theaters, but I definitely wanted to see it. I picked it up about a month ago, I think. So yeah, interested in watching that for sure. Next up, Black Mass. This is Johnny Depp playing Whitey Bulger, which is definitely interesting. I saw the trailer. It looks really, really good. Definitely want to check it out. Got that one for pretty cheap. I get most of my Blu-rays for pretty cheap. There's a store called Super Mega Replay that has $3.99 Blu-rays. Most of their Blu-rays are $3.99. Some of them are $5.99 and like $7.99. But they have a really cool deal where if you buy 5 movies or DVDs or whatever, you get a 6th one for free. So I usually walk out of that store with 6 Blu-rays for $21, which is an amazing deal. So yeah, that's kind of how I've built up my collection over the years. That and eBay. I buy some from like Best Buy, Walmart, the big chains, but that's kind of how I have built up my collection. Anyway, next up here we have Birdman. Michael Keaton. Great movie from what I hear, just haven't checked it out yet. This was another one of the, I think that one actually won Best Picture a couple years back. Alright, last 3 here in the drama section. Got The Big Short. I've seen this multiple times, really love it. It's about the Wall Street crash in 2008-2009. Stellar cast right here. Christian Bale, Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling, Brad Pitt. Excellent cast. And really well done film. Next up, Atomic Blonde, one of my favorites from last year. I believe I ranked this number 2 on my favorite films from last year. Charlize Theron is amazing in this movie, and the action is out of this world. Like, the action scenes are phenomenal. Again, I believe the guys who did John Wick made this film, so I'm assuming that John Wick has just as great action as this one. But yeah, it kind of was underrated a little bit last year for me. Also, really loved the soundtrack of this movie. One of the few soundtracks I would actually consider purchasing on CD. Next up, All the Money in the World. Came out, I think this came out around Christmas last year. This was the famous film that had Kevin Spacey in it that they had to reshoot with Christopher Plummer, which was an amazing choice. Christopher Plummer was so much better than I think Kevin Spacey ever would have been in this role. Very good movie. Great performances in this one. Alright, moving on to what I kind of lump in as like sci-fi, action, fantasy stuff. So I've got the Transformers 2 movie collection. This comes with Transformers 1 and 2. First Transformers is really the only watchable film for me, but yeah, I own the second one. I kind of liked these as a kid, but yeah, because great action and Megan Fox. Do I need to say any more? Then we have my very small Star Wars collection here. Got Rogue One, which I think is the best standalone Star Wars film. I don't really think that anybody would argue in terms of ones that aren't like in the official series. Yeah, Rogue One was great. I saw that in theaters, loved it. And then this was actually the first Star Wars movie I ever saw, The Force Awakens. I saw this with some friends around Christmas 2016, I think it was, because I think it was the year Rogue One came out. And absolutely loved it. I had slept on Star Wars for like 20 years. First 20 years of my life, I didn't watch Star Wars. And boy, was I dumb. This was a great, great film. I've since gone back and watched most of the originals. Love them. The prequels, The third one of the prequels is pretty good. Rest of them are kind of iffy. But, and The Last Jedi was alright. I gave it a pretty good review when I watched it, because I did enjoy the film, but I completely understand the complaints with it. Next up, Rise of the Planet of the Apes. Really enjoyed this one. I watched this last summer, I think it was. I have not seen the second and third one of this series, but I really loved this film. I've got Resident Evil Afterlife, the only Resident Evil film in my collection. From what I hear, these films are pretty garbage, but it was a steelbook that I got for $3.99, so I kind of jumped on it. That was also a Super Mega Replay deal right there. And then another film that I have not watched since I bought, The Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor. I believe this is the last of the Brendan Fraser Mummy films. Haven't seen it. I've heard it's garbage. The first couple ones, some people consider kind of guilty pleasures. They might actually not be that bad. I saw the Tom Cruise Mummy last year. It was pretty bad. So I don't know if they're going to continue with that series now, or if that's pretty much been ran into the ground. I don't know. But here we go. Moving on. Got Men in Black 3. Yeah, not much to say about that one. I need to have the other two in my collection because the other two are so much better. The Matrix, one of my favorite films of all time right here. This would definitely be in my top 5. Absolutely revolutionary sci-fi film. A lot of people love this for the action. I love it for the plot. I think this is a genius plot. And it was one of the first movies I watched that really made me question humanity and philosophy. It really got me into some philosophy that I had no idea existed before. This movie made me think when I first watched it, and that's what drew me to it. It's not the action. Yes, the action scenes are pretty sick, but the plot is really good on this film. I've not seen the sequels. Everybody hates the sequels, so I'm kind of not letting them tarnish my feelings on The Matrix right now. Next up, Ghost in the Shell. Really good really good. I wouldn't call this really good. I saw this in theaters last year, and I did actually kind of like it. It's got a really nice shiny slipcover. I don't know how well you can see it in the camera there, but I did like Scarlett Johansson in this. Yeah, pretty good action. Not the greatest plot in the world, but it does kind of pick up in the second half. I would recommend it. I know a lot of people were disappointed with this because the original anime is so popular. I haven't seen the original anime. Yes, shoot me now. I'm a bad fan, but anyway, moving on. Independence Day, a classic film. Everybody needs to watch this. It's just so much fun. It's not a great movie. The second one is god-awful. Don't watch the second one. I made the mistake of watching the second one in theaters, and it was pretty brutal. But the first one's a classic, and I would definitely recommend it to anybody. It's just a lot of fun. One of those popcorn movies, I would describe. Just something you don't have to think about. You just put it in and enjoy it. Next up, 2 copies of the same movie here. I've got Inception, the Steelbook, and Inception, the lenticular slipcover. So, Inception, pretty big fan of this film. Another film that really makes you think. It's also a great action movie. Christopher Nolan, I'm a huge fan of Christopher Nolan, like I said. Had to own the Steelbook and the lenticular slipcover. Pretty cool. These should be the last of the sci-fi, I think. We got Hunger Games. Yeah, not much to say about this. I saw this in theaters. I thought it was pretty good when I first watched it. Since then, not so much. I don't own any of the other films. But yeah, that series was kind of what jump-started Jennifer Lawrence's career. And finally, Cowboys and Aliens, which is a movie I watched as a kid that I actually enjoyed. Now, I don't really enjoy it so much, but it does still kind of hold a special place in my heart because I liked it when I was younger. Forgot to show you guys this. This is one of the box sets, Blu-ray box sets. I've got the Oceans Trilogy Collection, the original 3 films, 11, 12, and 13. I've seen Ocean's 11. That's like a classic heist film. Haven't seen 12 or 13. I have not seen Ocean's 8, which is currently in theaters. I've thought about seeing that sometime soon, but, we'll see. Let me stop the video right here, and I will be back with part 2. Alright, welcome back to my complete Blu-ray collection video. This is part 2. I think we're just going to make this one video because part 1 didn't last very long. So this is just going to be one long video. I'm going to throw in kind of an intermission or something, just to kind of break it up. Anyway, I forgot something else in part 1. I've got another box set, quick. I've got the Indiana Jones Complete Adventures Collection box set. This has all 4 films. Yeah. Just wanted to show that real quick. Okay. Let's see what we're gonna do next. Alright. Next up is comic book films. First up is The Amazing Spider-Man. Probably my worst comic book movie in my collection. Hate this film now. Like, I really hate it. I watched it the other day. I couldn't get through it. I hate Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. Oh, it just sucks. The plot sucks. The villain sucks. I haven't even watched the second one because it's just all terrible. But yeah, I own it in my collection because it's a Spider-Man movie. Yeah. I have a pretty big collection of comic book films. I've always loved comic book films ever since I was young. So next up here we have Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron. The first Avengers is one of my favorite movies of all time. I love this ever since I first watched it in theaters. Yeah, brilliant idea that Marvel had to bring all these characters together for one film, and then of course the sequel, which was really good. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has been my best friend for the past 10 years. I've watched almost all of the films. Really, very few misfires. For how many movies they've made, they haven't made hardly any bad ones. You could say maybe one or two, but, you know, for the most part, they've been really solid, which is impressive. Okay, next up, Batman the Killing Joke, the only DC animated film in my collection. DC makes great animated features, but this is the only one I had. I bought this because I really love the Joker. The Joker's like my favorite villain of all time. I've heard this isn't actually very good, but I haven't watched it yet. I really should get on that because I've had it for over a year. But anyway, next up, Batman vs. Superman. Why do I own this? I don't want that in my life anymore. That movie is an abomination. Should have never been made. Anyway, Captain America, the First Avenger. Love this movie. Couldn't be any polar opposite right there. I love this film. One of the original Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. So well done. Love this one so much. It's an iconic character that was rebirthed, shall we say, at that moment there. Oh, this movie. The Dark Knight. Look at that cover. Glorious right there. Heath Ledger's Joker is my favorite performance in any movie ever. And this is my favorite movie of all time, The Dark Knight. I can't say enough about this movie. The action is great. The tone is fantastic. Christian Bale is always Batman for me. Heath Ledger's Joker, again, greatest performance of the Joker, at least, of all time. Jack Nicholson was solid, but his Joker had a completely different feel. For my money, Heath Ledger is the Joker, greatest performance of all time right there. The Dark Knight. I could talk about this movie forever. I love it so much. And then we have The Dark Knight Rises, which was also pretty solid. Like, every single movie in the Christopher Nolan Batman series was good. I'd say The Dark Knight Rises is my second favorite. Batman Begins is honestly probably my third favorite because I didn't watch it like when I was super young, so it wasn't like I was waiting for a Batman film like that. And as such, I think I watched The Dark Knight first. And I don't know, I don't feel like that Batman Begins was quite as good as Dark Knight Rises. Part of that is Bane. Bane was a badass in that movie. One of my favorite comic book characters of all time here, Deadpool. Just got done seeing Deadpool 2 twice in theaters. This is the first one, of course. Loved this from the second I put it in the player. I bought this because it was like $12 on sale when it first came out at Best Buy. Didn't really know a lot about it, except I knew that it was getting good reviews. And so I popped it in one night. And I was just kind of shocked at quite how raunchy the comedy is, which is just awesome. We've never seen, at least not in a very long time, I don't know what another example would be, of a raunchy comedy superhero film. And it was kind of groundbreaking in that way. Ryan Reynolds was phenomenal. The second one was just as good for me. I rewatched this after I had watched the second one. Just as good as the first few times that I've watched it. Love Deadpool. Yeah, not much more else I could say about that. Next up we have Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Love this series as well. Again, kind of slept on it when it first came out. I rented the Blu-ray for the first one, and watched it actually with my family, I think. One of the few movies I've watched, like, with other people. I generally tend to watch movies by myself, at least the first time. That way I can kind of fully envelop myself in the experience of the movie, without having to, like, worry about other people, especially if I'm, like, hosting somebody at my house or something. Like, do I have to worry about how they're feeling, how they're liking the movie? No, I can just completely envelop myself in the film. Really loved the first one. Second one has kind of... I kind of don't like it as much as I did the first time I watched it. Still think it was very good, but... yeah, it wasn't quite as good upon second viewing, but still, very good series of films here. Next up, Man of Steel. Probably the best Superman film, but that's not saying much. The Superman films have been pretty garbage. This is boring. This movie is like 2.5 hours. Let's see, it says 143 minutes. So whatever the math is on that. Yeah, it gets drawn out. It gets kind of long and kind of boring. It's another one of those Zack Snyder movies. Zack Snyder has just shit the bed with DC pretty much. But yeah, I don't have very good opinions of Zack Snyder. Spider-Man trilogy. This is the 3 films from the early 2000s with Tobey Maguire. First one's really good. Second one's okay. Third one is an abomination. But anyway, I love Spider-Man, so of course I had to own that. Speaking of Spider-Man, we got Spider-Man Homecoming. This is the Walmart exclusive steelbook with, or not steelbook, slipcover with the shiny, almost steel-like packaging. Looks kind of like steel. Anyway, this was the Spider-Man movie I had been waiting my entire life for. A funny, immature Spider-Man film that did not take itself too seriously. Perfect. This was just a perfect Spider-Man movie. Alright. Oh, we're still continuing with comic book movies here. Let's see. I think these are the end of them. Alright. Next up here, Suicide Squad. I like Margot Robbie in this movie. Will Smith actually had a pretty decent performance. Another movie that disappointed me over time. I actually liked it when I saw it in theaters, but I think that's because I was so pumped for this movie. I was waiting for months to see this one. Jared Leto's Joker is just disappointing. I'll be honest. It's not the worst I've ever seen, but it's just not that good. But again, Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn. I've been waiting forever to see Harley Quinn in a feature, in a... what's the word? Live action movie. Don't know why it took me so long to think of that, but yeah. Harley Quinn's such a good character. Margot Robbie is just fucking gorgeous. And yeah, that's the savior of this film. Next up, Watchmen. The only, well, maybe not the only, but one of the few good Zack Snyder movies. This is a seriously underrated comic book movie. It is so long. It is so long. It's almost 3 hours long. That's insane. There's too much going on in this. This is also the director's cut, which is longer than the theatrical cut. But it's actually really, really well done. I would recommend it if you've got the endurance to watch it. Wonder Woman, the best DC movie in a long time. Yeah, everything about this movie was great. Gal Gadot is phenomenal. And yeah, loved every second of this. This is actually a DVD. I know why it's in my Blu-rays. I had to think about it for a second. But this is the X-Men 3-film collection. This is the 3 original X-Men films from the 2000s. This is in here because it goes with all my other X-Men movies. I wasn't going to put this in the DVD section because none of my other X-Men movies are in the DVD section, so I put this in the Blu-ray section. I had to think about it for a second, but yeah. Next up here, X-Men First Class, kind of the reboot of the X-Men series. What year was this? 2011, so it's been quite a while. This is the first of the James McAvoy series. That's kind of how I refer to them. The Patrick Stewart series and the James McAvoy series. Days of Future Past. Probably the best of the X-Men, the most recent X-Men series. Apocalypse, which was pretty good, but not great. You know, it could have been better, but saw this one in theaters and I did enjoy it. That's why I picked it up on Blu-ray when it came out. I'll go with this one here, Wolverine, which I have not seen. From what I hear, this one's okay, but it's the X-Men Origins that's shit. But I don't think this is a great movie. But anyway, Hugh Jackman, Wolverine. How could you not? And finally, my favorite, or what was originally my favorite movie of 2017, Logan. This film was gritty, it was dark, it was violent, gory, everything that I wanted from a Wolverine movie. That I didn't know I wanted from a Wolverine film. Every time superhero films take the R rating, I think it's a good move. Unless it's like something that's marketed for children, like Guardians of the Galaxy or Avengers. It's kind of marketed half towards kids and half towards adults. This was pretty much marketed towards adults, and anytime they do that with an R rating, it's a pretty good move. You got to see a lot of gore and a lot of swearing that you would not see from a Wolverine film, but it was realistic. When you have like no swearing and no gore, it doesn't really quite make sense for a guy that has blades shooting out of his hand, you know. So, great performances. Hugh Jackman was phenomenal. Yeah, Logan, very, very good. Next up, let me actually show you guys this one real quick. This is a funny one. If you've watched my most recent channel update of sorts, you'll understand what this is. This is Jurassic Park 3. When I bought this, I intended to buy Jurassic Park. I did not see the 3 right there. So that was hilarious. Yeah, now I'm going to own all the Jurassic Park films. It's just going to happen. I can't have Jurassic Park 1, which is the movie I intended to buy, and then Jurassic Park 3. Like, that doesn't make any sense. I have to have 2. I have to have Jurassic World, and I have to have Jurassic World 5, whatever the latest movie is. So yeah, I think that one belonged in the sci-fi genre, but I kind of forgot about it because I had it set aside, and it was a weird story with that. Oh, and I had one more sci-fi here, Avatar, classic movie, probably one of the best looking movies on Blu-ray. Alright, next up we're going to go to horror. Got a pretty budding horror collection here. Didn't used to like scary movies, especially when I was a kid. I was terrified of the mildest stuff as a kid. But now, lately, I've been really getting into horror movies. It's become one of my favorite genres. Alright, got a nice stack here. Starting off with my second favorite movie of 2017, I think it was. Maybe third. A Cure for Wellness. Super underrated. This is Gore Verbinski. This is the movie that doesn't get made anymore by mainstream theaters. This movie is fucked up. Like, it's really messed up. It's really out there. The ending is just nuts. And it's also really long, and that's the main complaint with it. It's bloated. It's too long. It's like 2 hours and 30 minutes or something like that. And I would agree, for mainstream audiences, this is too long, but I watched this movie on a cold, rainy day, all by myself in the theater, and that was like the best way you could possibly watch a movie like this. It was a surreal experience. And I for that reason, I love the film. I enjoyed it. I loved it the first time I watched it. Second time, I liked it almost even more. Dane DeHaan was phenomenal in this movie. Couldn't recommend this one enough. A Cure for Wellness. one that really flies under the radar. Next up, I have the Alien Anthology. This is the first 4 Alien films. First one is a classic. I have only watched half of the first one. I am a terrible, terrible Blu-ray collector. I've only watched half of the first Alien. But just a classic horror right there. Horror or sci-fi, whatever you want to call it. I have it in the horror section. Next up is Carrie, the remake. Haven't seen this. I haven't seen the original either, but it was cheap, and the story sounds interesting. It's another Stephen King. I don't know how well this remake was. Don't know if it was well received or not, but I thought it was worth a pickup for like $3. Next up, Crimson Peak, Guillermo del Toro film that I've heard mixed things about. I bought this because it's Guillermo del Toro, and that was when I was kind of on my Shape of Water high. I loved Shape of Water so much I wanted to buy everything Guillermo del Toro has made. So haven't checked this one out yet, but I'm interested too. Next up, Donnie Darko, one of the classic films of the 90s. Haven't seen it yet. Heard amazing things. Another Jake Gyllenhaal film there. Edward Scissorhands. Don't know if this quite fits in the horror genre. I've got another movie coming up that doesn't quite fit in, but I didn't know where else it would fit in. So, anyway, I haven't seen this, believe it or not. But it's Johnny Depp. Looks kind of weird. And I obviously know the story of Edward Scissorhands, so definitely interested in watching that. Get Out, a movie that a lot of people loved last year. I thought it was alright. I thought it was pretty good. A lot of symbolism in this. Some stuff that might fly over your head certainly flew over my head. I love the twist ending. I haven't watched this for a second time yet. I'm interested to see if it holds up. Some of the performances are so-so. And next up, classic film here, Halloween. Yeah, everyone should watch this movie. It's one of the classic horror films of all time. You gotta watch this every year on the Halloween time. Next up, It Follows, another pretty popular modern horror film, one that just came out a few years ago. Interested to check this one out. I've owned it for quite a few months, but just haven't watched it yet. Another one I wasn't sure if it fit in the horror section, because this is kind of marketed to younger kids, but Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Definitely interested to see this. This is a Tim Burton film. I've heard really good things about it. Interested in it for sure. Definitely want to check it out soon. Next up, Mother. Probably the most polarizing film of 2017. I just watched it a few months ago, and I loved it. Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem. There's only like 4 people in this movie. This is a Darren Aronofsky film. He wrote this like over the course of a weekend. And you can kind of tell, like, it's not a perfect movie. I said there was a lot of symbolism in Get Out. This is the queen of symbolism right here. So much stuff. This movie is super meta. Like, it's crazy. Like, this stuff, it had me thinking for hours after I watched the movie. Like, oh, that might mean this. Or this might be an allegory for that. It was one of those movies that kind of set off a fire in my brain, and I love that. So I loved this film. Really, really messed up too. There's like some graphic stuff in this that is like, I wouldn't recommend for most people. But if you like movies that are kind of fucked up and that you kind of make you think, I would recommend it. Next up, we have Psycho. Another classic horror film. One of my favorite horror films of all time. This is the first horror movie I bought for my collection. Just so well done. With this movie is kind of... It's not overly scary, but it's still kind of scary for, you know, a movie that was released like 70 years ago almost. Not 70 years ago. What the hell am I saying? It's been like 50, 55 years, something like that. When you compare this to kind of the graphic stuff we see today, this still kind of holds up as a scary movie. And I think that's a testament to how great a film this is. And finally, to round out the horror collection, we have the Saw 7 film collection. Have not seen any of these. I know they're classic horror films. Yeah, need to watch those. Alright, moving forward here. Going in a completely different direction, we have Disney. My short Disney / animated collection. I have one film in here that's not a Disney movie, but yeah, I just thought that it fit in pretty well with the Disney stuff. I've got Alice Through the Looking Glass, the sequel to the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland. Haven't seen that. Finding Nemo, a classic movie from my childhood that I still love. Oz the Great and Powerful, so. I haven't even watched it yet, really, but I haven't heard that good of things. Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. I've always loved Pirates of the Caribbean. Watched the first movie, I think, when I was pretty young. Loved it. Always loved the ride at Disney World. The first thing I ever bought at Disney World, I still have it, actually, is a Mickey Mouse dressed up in a Jack Sparrow outfit. So I loved Pirates when I was a kid. It was my favorite ride. It was tied with Pirates and Peter Pan for my favorite ride at Disney World. But yeah, I think I still have that thing. It's like, what is it? It's been 11 years since I first went to Disney World. That's pretty crazy. Dead Man's Chest. At World's End. On Stranger Tides. And Dead Men Tell No Tales. So yeah, I own every Pirates of the Caribbean film. Haven't watched any past the second one, I believe. But yeah. And then this is the only one that's not Disney. This is Rio, another movie I watched when I was pretty young. This came out in 2011. So yeah. Really? Wow, 2011. I would have been like 14. Alright guys, sorry about the short break there. I ran out of space on my camera. The last Disney film here is Zootopia. Lots of great messages in this film. Highly recommend anyone watch this. This is really good for adults as well. There's a lot of stuff in here that would kind of fly over kids' heads, but some really good messages for today's society. Alright, next up, I'm going to run through some of these here. We got comedy. Another one of my bigger collections. We're almost done. But yeah, let's run through these. So I've got... And that movie's not supposed to be in the comedies. Let's just show this one first, because this one's not supposed to be in the comedies. Star Trek, the J.J. Abrams remake. That was supposed to be in the sci-fi. Kind of fucked up there. Anyway, moving on. Got Ted and Ted 2. I absolutely love everything Seth MacFarlane's ever touched. This is probably my second favorite thing of his, behind Family Guy. Of course, Family Guy classic series that when I do my DVD collection videos, you'll see that I'm a pretty big Family Guy fan. But yeah, Ted and Ted 2, not classic, I don't know what the hell I'm saying. But really good films, really funny films that I love. Next up, Sausage Party. Really well done comedy. It's not just a raunchy comedy. There's actually some pretty good like social commentary in this, which I liked a lot. The Sandlot, classic film right there. I watch this every summer. Reminds me a lot of childhood, playing baseball with my friends. Next up, The Other Guy is one of my favorite Will Ferrell comedies. Ordinary World, which is a movie not a lot of people know about. This is a comedy starring Billy Joe Armstrong, the lead singer of Green Day. Green Day is my favorite band of all time. I'm sure you know that if you've watched my videos at all, or any of my music videos. love Green Day so much, so that's how I knew about this film. It's actually pretty well done. It's not bad. Billy's a pretty good actor, which I didn't really know. I didn't really expect. But, yeah, I loved this film. It's kind of like a midlife crisis film, where he plays this 40-something-year-old former punk rocker who has, like, a baby and another kid, and has to struggle with being a normal person as opposed to being a rock star, which is what he really wants to do. Really good movie. Definitely a recommended one there. Major League, classic baseball film here. Charlie Sheen. Love this one. Knocked Up, another classic kind of mid-2000s comedy, which is kind of my sweet spot for comedies, because I've told this story many times, but I grew up in an insanely Christian, religious, fundamentalist household, and what I watched was very heavily policed. Like, I remember when I was like 10, I watched a rerun of Scrubs, and my aunt just completely flipped out. My aunt, like, pretty much raised me, and she's like super, I love her, she's a great person, but she's like super, super religious. And like, if I sweared in front of her, she'd freak out. But, yeah, Knocked Up. This was one of the films that I watched when I wasn't supposed to, when I was like 11, 12, 13. And as such, all of the films that I watched back then will always hold a special place in my heart, because they made me feel better about being who I am. I think from a young age, even though I believed in religion, I kind of knew that it wasn't for me. And these movies were kind of a part of finding myself, almost. And finding out that I'm okay with this. I'm okay with sex. I'm okay with swearing. You know, there's nothing inherently wrong about it. It's just, you know, religious indoctrination has taught us that swearing is wrong, or that sex is wrong. Sex is like the most natural human thing in the world. So yeah, sorry for the rant there, but these movies, believe it or not, even though they're just really a lot of fun, they do actually kind of mean a lot to me. And I do like to share that kind of in my videos, kind of what means a lot to me and what I enjoy, what I hold dear. And I don't know. Sorry for the rant there. But anyway, Kevin Hart, Let Me Explain, stand-up special. The only stand-up special I have on Blu-ray. Would love to get more. They're just hard to find. Kevin Hart's probably like one of the most popular stand-up comics. He's not my favorite. Nowhere close. I love guys like Jim Jeffries is probably my favorite stand-up comic. George Carlin, for my money, is the best stand-up comic of all time. I watch guys like, I know it's kind of not too PC to say his name, but Louis C.K. I'm still a massive fan of him. Jim Norton is a guy I've been getting into recently. Lots of funny stuff there. So Kevin Hart, so. He's kind of more of the popular side of stand-up comics. A lot of the ones that I like are kind of more underground. I wouldn't say like underground, like hard to find, but they're not quite as mainstream. Anyway, Hall Pass, another funny film from the mid-2000s. Hail Caesar, which I have not seen yet. Looks pretty good. Friends with Benefits, another one of those movies I watched when I was way too young. Just admire Mila Kunis right there. That was like every guy's crush growing up. Don John, which is actually a funny, kind of funny, but also kind of a drama. Starred Joseph Gordon-Levitt, who's kind of this almost sociopathic character. Like, it's really weird. I would recommend this. It's a strange movie, but it's actually really good. Dark Shadows. Johnny Depp wearing yet another shade of makeup right there. It's pretty much his career. Which color makeup am I wearing today? The Change Up, which I don't really know a whole lot about. Stars Ryan Reynolds and Jason Bateman, two of my favorite actors. So, it's interesting. Cedar Rapids, which I have not seen, but I love Ed Helms ever since The Hangover. Seth MacFarlane's Cavalcade of Cartoon Comedy. Again, love Seth MacFarlane. This is like a 50-minute compilation of shorts that he made. Most of them are really funny. Some of them are kind of stupid. And then we got The Campaign, another Will Ferrell comedy there. Moving on, still got more. Believe it or not, we still have more. This should be the end of comedies. The Breakfast Club, classic comedy right there. The Blues Brothers, another one of my favorites. Okay, I'm gonna blow through this as fast as possible because my camera storage is like 0. A Million Ways to Die in the West, Anchorman. That's the last of comedies. Real quick, drama or documentaries. Sorry, I've got this Cubs documentary and Capitalism: A Love Story, Michael Moore film. I love Michael Moore. TV series on Blu-ray. This is Tosh.0 Deep V's. Nikita, the first season. Better Call Saul, season 1. Love Better Call Saul, love Breaking Bad. And this is not a DVD, but this is a Netflix for your consideration release of BoJack Horseman. This is actually on DVD, not on Blu-ray, but this is like one of the coolest things I own in my collection. This is season 2. You can actually find these on eBay. BoJack Horseman doesn't have like official releases on Blu-ray, but you can find the for your consideration releases on Netflix. Sometimes for fairly cheap. Last up here, Rick and Morty season 1. I love Rick and Morty so much. One of my favorite series. Rick and Morty season 3. I need to own season 2. And finally, the final season of Dexter. Love Dexter. Look at Jennifer Carpenter. She's gorgeous. Anyway, that's it. All the Blu-rays in my collection, I hope. If I forgot something, I'm sorry. I'm kind of pressed for time now, so I'm going to wrap up this video. I've got a lot of stuff to put away. That's gonna be fun. Anyway, have an awesome day. I hope you did enjoy this video. Hope you enjoyed seeing my collection. Blu-rays, I'm kind of becoming a Blu-ray snob, so Blu-rays are kind of my favorite thing now. But I still plan on showing the DVDs, even though I don't watch them as much anymore. I've got a lot of TV series, a couple movies on DVD, so figured I'd show those in a future video. But this is going to be one long video, so if you stuck through it, awesome. If you want to count and let me know how many Blu-rays I own, go ahead and leave a comment. Leave a comment below with your thoughts just in general. And have an amazing day. Oh, be sure to subscribe for future content.